Hey everybody, this is a song by Tye Tribbett called Get Up. We won a Grammy for it, I think, 2 years ago. And in this particular track, we're trying to make it pretty dirty. So we're using some samples and things for the snare and the kick, but we're not trying to make it sound pretty. We're trying to make it sound dirty and funky, kind of P-funkish. And so I'm going to play a little piece of it right here with the full track. It's about 30 seconds of it. Just get an idea of what's going on. So, when I started listening to this track, I usually start out like listening to the overheads to make sure they're working. Overall, these were recorded pretty well. The overheads, not doing a lot to them, just a little bit of EQ rolling off the low end, taking a little bit of mid-range out of it, low mids. And once I knew those were pretty cool, I moved on to listening to the overall image inside the track. Snare, let's see what it sounds like originally. So it's fairly dull. So add a little top end, pulled out some offensive stuff at around 900 hertz that was bothering me. And then I duplicated the track and added some more top end, and there was a ring in it that was bugging me. So I pulled out this ring over here at it's basically the same frequency that was bugging me in the first time I heard it. So I just pulled more of it out. But like I said, we wanted to keep it kind of dirty. So I added a trigger of the Brett snare, but I'm barely using it. It's just there to make it a little bit thicker. And so then I added something for ambience. Used the Z snare by Slate. And that's just to give it some ambience. If you turn it off, you'll notice it's completely dry. And I'm using it like a reverb. But then I wanted to give some character to the snare. So I'm using from the Drum Warehouse 2 pure pop snare. And the snare, I added a little top end and a little bit of low end to it. And I wanted some attack out of it, so I used Smack Attack from Waves. And you'll hear, if I take it out, let me play it right here. Sounds like that. Add Smack Attack. Gives it a nice attack. Take out the EQ. It's a little dull, but it needs a little bit of top end to it. And then we actually had a snare from the last album, from the original version of this song, and this is the back to the dirt thing. So those other things we're trying to make it a little bit pretty, but we wanted to keep the dirt, so we added this funky snare that we thought sounded really cool from Tye's last record. And then all mixed together, it sounds like this. And really the only reverb is coming from the ambience from the Z snare, which sounds like this. And I added some verb to pure pop, which is a very short verb. The Clark Technic sounds like this. On, I'm going to turn it off right now. And inside the track, the only reason I'm doing that inside the track is so that it makes it sound more live. So we got it dirty, and we just added a little bit of ambience to it, so that it would sit in the track better. On the kick drum, okay, this is something I don't do very often, but in this particular case, didn't like the kick drum at all. Here, let's listen to this. I haven't listened to this in 2 years, so let's go listen to the original kick drum and see if it really sounded bad or if I was crazy. This is what it really sounds like. And I attempted to make it sound better with this EQ, but I felt like it wasn't working in the track, so we ended up using A Kick, which is named after Aaron Lewis, and then I duplicated it and added low end and some top end with the API EQ, extreme low end actually, because I felt like it wasn't thick enough. And then, oh, I know. And then I added in the CLA Chrysler Algae kick drum with it. And in this case, and I can't remember why, but I ended up putting Aaron's kick out of the A kick out of phase, and it just felt better to me. And I'm not sure why, but at the time it felt great, and it still feels great. If I take it out, you can see that it thins out. Put it back in, and it sounds pretty thick. And it sounds like this in the track.
Mixing is a very, very hard art to master. I know because I've been trying to master this art for several years. That is one of the reasons why I do Mix Mondays. It's a learning environment, and every mix that I do, I learn something new. And I've taken everything that I've learned over the years, and we have poured it into our mixing templates. Mixing templates are a great starting place, and we have created several templates that allow you to get up and going quickly. And we have created them for Logic Pro X. We have created them for Pro Tools, for Studio One, for Ableton Live, and so many others. So if you're interested in taking your mixing to the next level, or even just getting started, make sure you check out these links down and below in the description of this video and grab your template today. All right, back to the show.
It seems to cut through all the time. And oddly enough, the tom sounded really good. So all I did was EQ them a little bit and added a CLA to them. Let's see what they sound like with nothing. So first thing I did was EQ out some low mids, and there was some weird thing going on at 75 Hertz. I took that out and added a little bit of top end to them. And then the CLA is basically just adding a slight bit of reverb and a lot of top end to it, just so they cut through the mix. And you'll hear them cut through like this. And again, on this particular track, the bass is a little distorted, but it sounds cool. So I put my trusty little CLA compressor on it, and I'm only compressing at a couple dB. But inside the track, it sounds great. I don't get hung up on, if a bass player cuts his bass and it's a little distorted, I don't get hung up on on it being a little distorted, because sometimes that adds a little bit of tension and dirtiness to the track, which is really cool, because sometimes I have to actually add dirtiness to a bass in order for it to cut through. In this case, it sounded great with just a little bit of compression. Of course, one of the features of this song was the horn. And the horns overall sounded really good. Let's see what they sound like soloed. They were recorded in a pretty cool sounding room. But they were a little harsh, so I took out like 6K out of them. And I'm just compressing a little bit. It's barely compressing, but I wanted to make them wider, so I used the stereo imager to make them a little bit wider inside the track. Now I didn't just do this randomly like in solo. When I was listening to it in the track, I just felt like they weren't wide enough, so then I added the stereo imaging to it. And then I didn't feel like there was quite enough reverb for this particular track, since it's supposed to be live, so I added some reverb. It's a short room and then a medium room, basically, is what it is. You can basically use any reverb for horns, just emulating a small room like in a studio. And then as far as a long verb, just find something that's about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds to add a little more ambience. For the lead vocal, you'll notice that I cut out in between all of his lines all the ambience in the track. And the main reason why I did it was because there's a lot of background vocal leakage in the track. Listen. And what I noticed after I put the background vocals in is I could hear that ambience through his lead vocal, and it was actually affecting the background vocals. So I went through and cut out everything in between, because it just made the background vocals sound really poor or really bad without with the ambience leaking through his lead vocal mic. Because once you turn up a vocal really loud and there's leakage, it can really affect the overall sound of the background vocals. And the same is true if there was a lot of snare leakage in the vocal in between the lines. I would probably go in and cut out the snare leakage too in a song. Now, at the end of the song, you'll notice I didn't cut out anything, because we want to hear the audience leaking through the lead vocal mic in certain places, because it actually adds to the ambience. So I'm very careful about not losing the ambience of the vocal in certain parts of the song, like usually at the beginning and at the ends of the songs. And in the middle, when I'm trying to make everything sound really tight, but still have the illusion of live, I'll cut things out. A bit about the BGVs on the song. There's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 singers singing, and we wanted it to sound, like I said earlier, even with the drums, we were trying to make it sound dirty. With the vocals, we want it to sound live. So we're using quite a decent amount of the live vocals, but then we're also mixing in stems from earlier recording that they did, which is very airy, but we also want to be able to hear things like this. I'll give you an example. of the vibe of the live, where they're doing little ad-libby parts in between. So as the song's playing, you'll notice you still hear all that little stuff going on the singers are doing in between the lines. But when we hit the choruses, we want to help them out. So we've got the samples stem or the stems mixed in with the live vocals, and it sounds like this. And he's still not done with the horn.
Man, you know what's crazy? And you know what really elevates a track? Having the right drums. And speaking of drums, if you haven't checked out Yosh's Drum Warehouse yet, you're seriously missing out. We connected with Yosh, a 7-time Grammy Award winner, and we packed over 600 plus multi-sample sounds that work with any DAW and are perfectly formatted for Trick or Two. We're talking tons of snares, kicks, toms, and so much more. You name it, it's in this sample pack. So whether you're on Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools, Cubase, Bitwig, whatever you got, it's all here. It's ready to take your production to the next level. Seriously, go grab it right now. gospelproducers.com. All right, back to the show.
So you'll notice on all these overdub keys, there really isn't a lot of processing going on, because Tye and Joe are really particular in the sounds that they pick, and usually the sounds they pick sound great. So when it comes to this little section right here, this is like a really important part right here. It's a really great hook, and it's a combination of a stem from the earlier version of the song mixed in with a Jupiter 80. And there's just no reason to EQ because it sounds great just by itself. And then the little bell part is on this track here. It adds to the sound. But I didn't have to do anything to it, except I had to control the dynamics a little bit on this motif track. But I'm not really doing much to it at all. This is basically a Rhodes track. That's a motif sound, apparently, and it's panning from left to right, but that was in the original program, so I didn't have to do. Now if I got a Rhodes that wasn't panning or having a vibrato on it, I might add vibrato to it, but in this particular case, Joe and Tye laid it out right. Whoever played this particular part picked a great sound. And so, it's a typical example of less is more. You don't have to put compressors and EQs on every single instrument unless it needs it, or if it's not cutting through a track. So people ask me what I have on the 2 mix. I usually start out with the SSL compressor, and I'll play a little section. I try to minimize the amount of compression I'm using on the SSL. And I do it kind of in stages. I only do like 2 to 3 dB. You can take a picture of this, look at it. Basically set on auto with 30 millisecond attack. Releases on auto. and I'm not making up that much gain with it. Then after that, I use the Slate Digital virtual tape machine at 15 IPS on a 2-track setting. One thing you gotta note about the Slate Digital, after you get your whole track going and it's getting pretty hot, you usually have to back down the input. The cool thing about Slate is that as you turn it up and turn it down, it adjusts the output, automatically readjusts the output, which is great. Because if you turn it up too much, it distorts. So if you want that sound, you can get it real easy. But I usually like things to sound pretty clean, so I back it off and keep the VU meters below 0. Because this can go a long ways to creating distortion, and you don't want that in your mix. Then I just add, in this particular case, I added a little bit of top end with the Slate FGN EQ, which is supposed to be like a Neve EQ of some sort. And then I'm using the virtual mix bus set on the British console, which is supposed to be emulating an SSL. And I can't remember why at the time, but I felt like it needed a little low end bump and a little bit of top end after the fact, after the compression. Oh, I missed one thing, I'm sorry. I'm just using this Fugue Fairchild, which you can hear. It just makes the thing a little bit bigger and a little bit wider. And same thing with the tape machine. I don't know if I showed that. So notice when it's off, the track sounds like it gives it a low end bump and it widens the mix out. And then the last thing, or the second from the last thing, is the Abbey Road mastering compressor. And this really widens things out a lot. They have this great little spreader here. And all I'm doing is compressing, and I'm only using about 20% of it in the mix. But it does a lot to making the mix sound wider. If I wanted to add some more top end, I could do it here. But I'm not going to because it doesn't really need it. Save that for the mastering engineer. And then this is a PSP Vintage Warmer 2, which is a limiter, and it's probably giving me a lot of volume overall. Probably boosting it up 2 or 3 dB. And if this was compressing any more than this, I would probably back. I'd insert a trim, which actually I'm not using the trim right now, but if it was hitting too hard, I could put a trim at this point, and then you will notice it's not compressing or limiting quite as much, but I didn't really need it in this case. And that's pretty much all I got to say about my 2-mix bus. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, this little quick one here about drums, bass, and horns, and vocals, and I just want to give a little shout out to Tye and Joe Bethia, the producers and artists on this track, and thank them for letting me be a part of this song and this album. And it was quite a delight to win a Grammy with them. And I'm just glad to be a small part of their whole organization. And all I gotta say is get up with Tye Tribbett.
Y'all, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this clip. We appreciate you watching this breakdown. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to check out the links right over here. If you want to take your production, mixing, or whatever to the next level, or check out some of the other products that we have, make sure you check the links down in the description and in the comment section of this video. All right, I appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace.